Well, how Hunter children to do? This year the Queen Quet one more again for Gullah Geechee Nation News. Now Hunter children know I don't care Hunter all through the Gullah Geechee Nation. Well, this year we did in the East Basin. Look your children, if you did Hollywood Soskakalaki, now not way out China in California, but if Hunter did near Hollywood Soskakalaki, you did right here with the Ernest F. Hollins East Basin National Wildlife Refuge they did. Now you have to drop by one day and you might just meet Miss Paul. She the administrative person what did your every day and thing like that. And we've been a crack we teach, but where we did initial place they call the Grove. So how Hunter to do today?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
All right, all right. Now you and I were talking about this building behind us.
Yes, ma'am.
And this entire area that was the Grove Plantation. And you were telling me that this building was built in 1828?
Yes, it was. It was a working rice plantation built by George Washington Morris. Later, his niece Meta Morris Grimble and her husband John Berkeley Grimble owned the plantation, actually during the war.
Yes, during the Civil War.
Yes.
Yes.
And then later it went through a number of different owners, including in 1929 the president of Brooks Brothers.
Ah, the suits.
Yeah, Owen Winston. And
Yes.
he did a major renovation of the home.
Right.
Later, the Carter Henry family also did another major renovation on the home. The Nature Conservancy purchased the property from the Hendricks family in 1990.
And that's not Jimi Hendrix family.
No,
That's a different
that's the
Hendrix
Tad
family.
Hendricks
Okay,
family.
yes.
And then the Fish and Wildlife Service purchased it from the Nature Conservancy in 1991 as the headquarters for the Ace Basin National Wildlife Refuge.
Interesting. And so when you say this is the headquarters for the National Wildlife Refuge, what does that mean? What does that entail? What do you cover in terms of the National Wildlife Refuge?
This is where we have our office. The National Wildlife Refuge is approximately 12,000 acres. We have some property here in Adams Run, and then we also have property down on the Combahee River.
Yes.
Bonnie Hall area on the way to Yemsee. And then across the river at Combahee Fields, part of Old Combahee Plantation.
So basically right where Harriet Tubman had the raid during the Civil War, y'all have property on either side.
Right.
Because the Combahee runs under the only Harriet Tubman bridge in the world, y'all, here in the Gullah Geechee Nation. So a lot of people, when they're taking that drive, which is the King's Highway, Highway 17, y'all will end up crossing that bridge, and then you have a long causeway drive over the marsh. So just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, that's the thing that's protected because you all have it.
Yes, we are actually, the refuge is part of the bigger Ace Basin project, which was a joint effort between local landowners, federal government, state government, and some corporations that decided this property needed to be protected. And originally, the area that we planned to try to protect was 350,000 acres around the Ashepoo, Combahee, and Edisto rivers.
Which is where you get Ace from.
Right. And now we've protected most of that, so we've enlarged our scope to nearly 1.5 million acres that we're hoping to protect through easements or public ownership like the National Wildlife Refuge, where anybody can come out and visit.
And so usually folks, do they have to make reservations or anything, or people can just drive up to a National Wildlife Refuge and
you can just drive up, park, and come in.
And come out, because it's your dollars that pay for it.
That's right, your tax dollars.
So it's your house, really. It's your house.
Yes,
so you can come in whenever you feel like.
That's right.
And come out whenever you feel like. And so that's why today we're going to go on a journey. Y'all notice I'm the only one without a little emblem probably on my shirt today. I should have put my Gullah Geechee shirt on. I would have had that on. But definitely we're going to go out on a journey with some of our other partners from the National Wildlife Refuge Service, and y'all are going to get to see plenty of the things where we the crack we teeth about. So the Hunter children can't just say, oh great God, I wish they would have showed me the pictures and thing. I ain't did it. I won't go see them. Well look y'all, we about to show you. Take this your journey with me, because Hunter children know when Hunter to deal with me, Hunter going to know that this year that what going on. So how long you been working here?
I'm the project leader for the refuge complex, so my station is Pit Main. That's where
okay. So up the road.
Yeah, so I supervise the 4 managers, including Mark. We have 4 refuge managers in our complex.
Nice.
And when you look at life in the wild, you'll see that we have Santee, Cape Remain, Waccamaw, and Ace Basin refuges.
Okay.
Each
And
one of
that's
them
all
has
under you?
Well, I oversee the management of the 4 refuges.
Okay.
And we have a manager in charge of each refuge.
Got
So in this refuge, it's Mark Purcell.
Okay.
At Cape Romaine, it's Sarah Dawsey.
Okay.
At Waccamaw, Marshall Sasser or Craig Sasser.
Okay.
And at Santee Refuge, it's Mark Epstein.
All right.
So it's about 116,000 acres in the Low Country Refuges Complex. That's the 4 refuges.
116,000.
Yeah, about 116,000. The largest refuge is Cape Remain. It's 66,287 acres.
Wow.
Waccamaw is the next largest, about 29,000 acres.
Okay.
Ace Basin is about 11,000, 12,000 acres, as is Santee, about 12,000 acres. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So what does your job kind of entail?
Well, I supervise the 4 refuge managers, and I oversee the management of the 4 refuges.
Okay. So that's what your day-to-day duties are, is to make sure that y'all adhere to the different things that are in your mandate in terms of protecting all this then.
Yes, the mission of the refuge system, as I'm sure someone's already told you, is about habitat and species. So for us, habitat is where it's at.
All right.
That's our primary mission.
All
so this refuge, Ace Basin, is intensively managed for waterfowl and ducks and wading birds and shore birds.
Nice.
And of course, they also have deer and neotropical
Of course, I'm
migrants, too.
sure.
Richly diverse refuge.
Okay.
Each of the refuges is very different. Cape Remain is a barrier island marine refuge.
Okay.
Ace Basin and Santee are both waterfowl and neotropical migrant refuges.
Oh, okay.
So they're intensively managed. Lots of hard work. Waccamaw Refuge is a blackwater bottom swamp refuge.
Oh, okay.
Floodplain forest.
Right.
Very beautiful. And the managers manage each of those refuges for the mission of that refuge.
Of those men, right.
And the mission of the refuge system, which is habitat and species for all Americans.
Nice. Very nice. And I like that statement. Habitat is where it's at.
Habitat is where it's at.
I like that. Enslaved Africans have as they're arriving here in the Sea Islands. And let's see what awaits. All right, Churn. You see the Queen's Chariot is arriving for my day on Jehosee Island. Yes, it's a tractor for all the 100 children who to look at them and say, no, no, she to play with me. Ain't to play tall, tall. Y'all see what that tractor got funny back? We about to get on top there and ride. Now, we ancestors ain't had this your luxury and no tractor for pull. They be used as a tractor around you, because this have been the rice plantation. So, 100 children, come on, wine with me for this your journey on Jehosee. I know, right?
He's just getting the tell it's shiny though. She probably came out here and polished.
Oh, you think so?
He thought of everything. He took a backup pose and event one.
This is so cute.
We're looking forward to it.
This is the Edison River, the South Edison right here in front of us. It's a 150 mile long Blackwater River. It's the longest Blackwater or tannin stained bottomland hardwood type river there is in North America. That Edison Island you see way out there. That little picture is
Oh, all right.
Actually, that's actually South Hutchinson Island. Edison Island. But all this converges on St. Helena Sound, which is where the Ace acronym comes from. Actually, Columbia and Edison take St. Helena Sound. This end of the island, these 3 acres right here are owned by the family that used to own the island, the Mayback family. They kept 3 acres apiece in triples. This was called the summer house. And if you get back in it, there's where they farmed it, they lived here in summer. Imagine the prevailing winds with southwest winds. We have waterfowl hunting allowed on most of the surrounding marshes, but not within the managed counties. Those we keep as a refuge for the waterfowl.
And it's just hunting season that people come out and do that.
That's right. Now nobody hunts pounds after pounds. They're
right.
licensed.
Yeah, no, the other end.
Everything else is seasonal. One thing is a state season. Problem animals on the island are feral hogs.
I was going to ask that.
A lot of feral hogs.
Some of them. Oh, feral hogs?
Swallow.
No, still.
You'll get plenty of opportunity.
Oh, they'll be busted off.
They're really hard on the infrastructure we have on the island. This road right here bisects the island from south to north and north to south.
Okay.
It would have been here in the 1700s. This has been here forever.
So this started being a plantation when?
In the late 1600s, they got a Grimble.
Wow. Grimble. Okay.
In the 1700s, he added the plantation and transferred hands a few times.
Right. But he's got the King's Grant in the 1700s.
And if you think about Drayton Hall,
Yeah, definitely.
Judge Drayton owned this as well.
Oh, he did? Okay.
When we get to the old plantation site, nothing but ruins. The house was all.
Okay.
There's two foundations. One foundation is tabby, which is lime and oyster shell. The recipe's been lost to time. Nobody can make it anymore. But there was a way they baked oyster shell and lime and different soil elements and made the mortar that had shell in it for brick work. So the original foundation is tabby. When Drayton came back and built on top of that, he built a brick home and he used a brick foundation. There's two foundations on top of a foundation.
And now this particular folk prior to Drayton owning it here, was she related to the family that's also in Georgia?
I know after Drayton, it came into the 1830s. A governor of South Carolina became a governor, he's actually state representative, a senator, and a number of other things, named Red Aiken.
Oh yeah,
and, you know, the
Red House down
same guy. He owned this property in the 1830s to about 18, just about the Civil War.
Okay.
Just about the Civil War. He was 27 years old when he came up to the behalf of the president of the Canal and the Railroad Company. Very wealthy guy. Left it to his dad died. Left it to his son. And he was very interested in the whole husbandry of a plantation. Not just the profit. And so he had hospitals on this island. He had schools on this island to educate the slaves. He had actually more Europeans per acre than the economic model of the time. He didn't want to break hands. So as unprogressive as slavery was, he was at least marginally. And so he really put a lot into place. When Maybank, he was big into formal gardens. He had all these statues and statuary gardens. So we're going to go back here and you're going to see woods. And I'm going to start pointing out marble obliques and things in the woods. A lot of that stuff now is Drayton Hall. I was going to ask what you see out here, this ain't fun. All the way to the collaboration fountain. I can't help myself, David. I got to show you the fountain. I want to hear it.
Yeah, definitely.
You'll see there's an avenue that was a slave home before. What you were duplexes. With common chimney stuff.
What else tabbies also?
No, they weren't. They were wood brick.
Okay.
And all that's left is the brick.
Okay.
There are a handful of cisterns on the water.
All of this was Wrightsville.
All Wrightsville that, from neglect and hurricanes and things, it failed.
Okay. And then it just grows in naturally. And so what's in here now?
It's called Black Needle Rush.
Black Needle Rush.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a Juncus romariensis is its common name. It's not a name.
Interesting.
Go get it.
Let me tell you something. I was just thinking about how did they build this causeway?
Talking about.
Yeah, it's like how did they build this? Yeah, by hand
And then steam shovel maybe in some cases, but mostly hand.
But if it was during the plantation era, they wouldn't have necessarily had a steam shovel. I mean, it would have been
There were some
human
cases
power.
they did, but most of it was wheelbarrow and shovel.
And shovel.
And mules and wagon drags and things like that.
And how long is this causeway?
You know, I just measured it. I retopped it about 2 years ago. I want to think there's about 3 miles of causeway on this island.
Wow.
And what about all the sub-roads?
Sub-road, exactly.
Or dikes.
And dikes, right.
If you study the culture of rice, they'd have a big impoundment, say this one 200-acre impoundment, which it is.
Yeah.
And they would have managed each unit in 20-acre pieces, or even smaller potentially. So if you look at all the, you have what are called main field drains, and then you have quarter drains that enable very shallow subsurface deep water.
Okay.
And so each, if this was the whole field, each 20-acre piece was intensively managed. And somebody may have been assigned to that piece.
To that piece, right. So that's a task.
Right.
So the same task system was being utilized.
That's correct.
But just in another manner when we start talking about the dikes and the tongues.
And one of the things I was telling you about Fred Aiken, I'm reading on him, in that economy of that period, they had established norms for tasks. You know, a person could do this much work. Right. He had a lesser number. Where, you know, maybe, I don't know what the number was, I'm just not that versed in it.
But it wasn't the same as the average around the area. Yeah, he reduced it.
So he also believed in, I want to think it was a 30 or 35-hour week.
Really?
In the balance of the hours, the slaves that worked for him, or the slave Africans that worked for him, he enabled them to have their 5 hours to make profit for themselves.
For their own. Exactly.
That wasn't real common, evidently.
No, it was not. And I mean, it's on a lot of the different rice plantations, what would happen anyway in terms of the task system was if you had an acre, it was anywhere from a half acre to a full acre. That was considered to be your task. All right? But you would have anywhere from an eighth to a quarter task of your own. So that once you finished that, you could do what you needed to do. Because, of course, they didn't want you eating all the Carolina gold. So you needed to have other things. Exactly. So we still grow, my family still grows all those same subsistence foods that my ancestors were growing. And we own the land that used to be the plantation that they lived on. So it's really massive. Like also I was saying to her, I studied engineering. So it's like when I'm looking at all of this, I'm looking at the math involved in this. And I'm looking at the science involved in it. And how many people there were actually engaged in the process. And then to, you know, fast forward in time when you were talking about history, and history is what it is. It is what it is. But you can't change it. I said, but people are trying to. They do it by elimination. You know, so it's the absence of the people. It's the absence of even mentioning that they had scientific knowledge at all. You know, and then, like you said, you can use something like this as an example. And then if we actually created a legend and we created an actual scale here and said, okay, let's scale this off as this plantation, as Jehosee Island. And then put little miniature people on it to show how many people it would have taken to actually create this causeway. Then it would make people now understand better because they come and they always think you go to Home Depot for everything, you go to Lowe's for everything. But I always tell people there was no Home Depot and Lowe's. My ancestors had to do everything by hand, but you could only do it by hand because you already had the knowledge to do it. You had to have information there, you had to understand, and they had to study the whole dynamics of the earth itself. You know, what could be done where and do it effectively and efficiently. How do you do this? Again, you have mentioned coming over here today. And we came with motors, right? So imagine we had to row our way from where we started.
Paper canoe trip,
Yeah, you see? So how long would that have taken? We'd still be out there, right?
One of the quotes that I read recently about rice culture is, first off, the first rice culture was inland rice. And it was all the backwater, bottomland hardwoods, they'd clear them and they'd reserve pond them and flood them that way. When that became not as economically profitable, they moved to the tideland rice and used these types of structures. And this structure, rice trunk, this is one modified for a come along, but this design is 99% what was brought over by Africans as far as technology. That's where the technology came from. The point on the red that I found interesting is a lot of people surmised that rice culture was what it was and it never changed. In fact, it was a constant evolution of science and technology to optimize yield. And most of that came from the African folks that had the familiarity with the process. But in this situation, on this impoundment, it's kind of a dog-leg L-shaped system. This side is more saltwater, salinity-wise.
All right.
The one on the west side is more brackish, and the one on the north side is freshwater. So we mix this, the soup of brackish and fresh waters to optimize salinity for certain plant species that do better in different salinity range. Like widgeon grass is a 5 to 10 to 15 parts per thousand plant. We'll make sure we're doing that. We use refractometers, which is just a little optical device that will give you salinity readings. We also taste the water. We've been around, you put your finger in it, you can kind of get a feel for it.
And when you guys were talking about the grasses and the marsh grass, the Spartina, one thing that we've been really excited to do this last year is we've partnered with a program that the Department of Natural Resources started called Seeds to Shoreline.
Yep.
And our kids are, do you know that? Have you worked with that at all?
I haven't worked with it. I saw it pop up in one of my Google alerts.
Yeah, it's so great because our kids that go through the extended scientific investigation program, they'll actually go out in the marsh and harvest the seeds from the Spartina grass in the fall.
Grow it in the classroom.
Yeah, and we have a greenhouse at the Seaweed Visitor Center, and so through the semester they can watch their seeds grow, and then at the end of their program they'll actually go out and restore an ailing section of salt marsh.
And actually, when we went to redo the oyster beds, we had at Bennett's Point, we had a group of the students with us on Discovery that planted their grass that they took.
We're hoping to incorporate some oyster reef construction this coming year too. Good. So it's been, the service projects, I think, incorporating, some of the things that they do to manage on the refuges and to give the kids a chance to connect and give back and have a sense of investment. Will hopefully maybe in some, be that spark that at least makes them, think about the decisions they'll make as decision makers when they grow up, and it may be that spark that leads some of them into careers in natural resources and biology.
Beneath this storm so long, beneath this your storm so long, crying, Lord, Lord, give we more time for pride. I've been in this your storm so long. Oh, this your honey time. Oh, this your honey time, crying, Lord, Lord, give we more time for pride. I've been in this your storm so long. For all of the ancestors, over there upon Jehosee, blood, sweat, and tears, the deer, the Nayshun, over in the trunk rider, over in the people of harvest, in the wilderness, the famine, the rice and the water. Oh, you see, I see all of the ancestors there. We grind from you, grind this your way, make up this your cord, stand through the storm. For all of them, over there, John, been to the poor. And mind all the other rest of people, when been a kind in the corner. When this show water we, yeah, these two, been to the place where it come true to get to this shelter. The poor, you see. And for all of these your children, we're going, none but cuida down here. On this your journey, on standing and things like that. Now going back, we're going forward. San Kofa, we the poor, and we see. Thank you, God, for this your day, for this your journey, for this your circle, for this your gathering. All of these your children, we want to learn the word. Who we be for truth. Learn the word. But who we been? Who dare you to walk all of this year? We thank you for this your day, for this your time, and for all that we to do together, going forward. And for all of them, who we going to touch, and who we going to bring in. For all together, strong, in mind that your line. For all these your generation for come. We thank you, and we say, amen, amen, and amen. We sure can. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. And now, how often do they have to change these? How often do y'all have to do anything to these? Like, don't count a hurricane or nothing.
Well, typically, you're looking at 30-year, probably a longer life out of these structures.
Okay. Wow.
Hurricanes change all that every time.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
They're pretty long lasting. What typically happens is if it's a technique to in placing these, you have to put on a mud seal. So if it's a structure sinks a little bit, it can underwash, and the next thing you get a blow through. And then and then the whole thing can disappear.
The whole thing will go, yeah.
But generally, if they're installed correctly and he can do it correctly, they're 30, 35, 40-year structures. We've seen them 50 and 60 years old.
Oh, wow.
But they're pretty long lasting. They're expensive. They used to be you could build one, my day for $5,000 and put it in for $2,000. But now you build them for $20 and put them in for $20.
Really?
And if you're on an island where you have to all the logistics of mobilizing the materials and such, you can spend some pretty big money on these.
So you see, even again, I'm a mathematician. My degree's in computer science and mathematics, right? So for a science class, for instance, getting them to calculate the value of the scientific knowledge of the Africans and put it in today's terms, you see? Because people like to say, oh, you have a skill set, right? You get hired by your skill set and your experience. But look at the value of just this alone. If you're saying that's a $40,000 project alone, then it's how many people does it take to actually be on the crew?
At least 4.
At least 4 people. All right, so now calculating their time, their knowledge, their experience, their expertise. This is a $100,000, project at a minimum when you really get down to it. Just this. We're not even talking about the rest of the acreage here. Just this.
So our problem, I was an engineering major as well at one time.
Oh, yeah.
But our problem was we can mathematically attribute a value engineering-wise.
Right.
But the biology side is so hard to calculate.
Oh, yeah.
What's that contribute to society?
Yeah. And we actually did a study of the East Basin, finally got on that issue and tried to do an economic analysis of what this means in shellfish production and tourism dollars. It's phenomenal recovery of money for expenditure.
Oh, yeah. Last view that they see is that door of no return. So can you imagine being here and then you're standing at something like this? It could still feel like a door of no return because you're trapped here. You're in a place you don't know. With people who, some might think it was, they treated you all right, but no, not if this is not your land and you're still away from your family. You have no idea when you're going back. You can't leave, you see. So it still gives that view if you're standing at this point, So it's like so close and yet so far because there's water. You would think you could leave, but where would you go?
Now, Mark is a wonderful example of a manager who focuses on the habitat.
Yeah.
Habitat. Yeah. He talks about habitat. We manage it intensively.
Right.
Fantastic habitat on this island and all over East Basin Refuge.
Yes. And this is a truly successful public-private partnership.
It is.
Yeah.
It sure is.
Where you are now, that is the actual overseer's house from the
Oh, that's
plantation
the
days of
overseer's
1800s.
house.
And
Wow.
the Maybank family owned it. They used it as a hunting lodge, if you will.
Okay.
And that's where the vinyl comes from and such. You notice the guttering coming off that brick foundation to the left is a cistern.
Okay.
And so they're dumping water in the cistern. The house is pretty much, it's in very, very poor repair. You know, it's one of those things trying to find funding for is almost impossible. It just doesn't meet all the tests of people seeing it and monies and whatever.
Oh, even with historic preservation?
We tried a bunch
Nothing?
of things. I work with Charleston Historic Society, a lot of different things. And everybody has ideas and we keep running down dead ends.
Really?
But that is the original house, overseer's house.
Right.
This oak alley, you see, as they call it, goes that way to the original plantation house foundation.
Right.
What's unique about this property is that the alleys were like the spokes of a wheel. So the main plantation house was at the end of this one, and there are several more alleys that go off. And we'll come down one of those, you'll get a good, it's really a very picturesque thing.
Picturesque.
What we're going to do now is we're going to walk over to that little clearing I made the other day.
Okay.
And we're going to look at a rice mill real quick. The main plantation house was to the west of us here now. The overseer's house was here, probably had some crops around it, whatever. All this would have been without trees. It had been an industrial yard. There would have been a rice mill, a chaff separating thresher, and there's a number of canals that come up through there that they could bring the rice cows up, all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to, in context, see this today because it wasn't like...
Like it is.
It had been clean. They wouldn't have had any trees, anything catch fire. The fire was expensive proposition then. We get here, there's a little well. Keep in mind, steam consumes water, right?
Right.
So we got to supply water. There's a well, and you'll see the lead pipe that pulls it out of the well up that they can suck it out into the steam mill. We know where the foundation footings were. We know where the chimney stack is and how it runs horizontally, so it didn't waste heat energy. Still release
right, that's the one you were describing to me earlier.
That's kind of a cool thing. And then the chimney stack too. What you have, this would have been where they drew their water.
From here?
To supply the steam mill.
Oh, wow.
And if you look in the, like at 11 o'clock position, you see
right
the
there.
pipe in that brick? That's a lead pipe, and that was the pipe that supported the mill and brought the water into the mill for the steam engine.
Wow.
The fuel of the steam was the rice chaff itself. The plant material. But that, you know, the original, and you'll notice the pieces of granite and things. Well, granite isn't a low country resource, so that was imported from at least the upstate.
And how old would this part have been?
This would definitely go back to the early 1800s. If not older. The mill would have been over here. They kept the chimney stack, which you see right there, away because you didn't want to chunk sparks.
Yeah.
You know, back into your
now I see.
and burn it down.
Isn't that something? And it's shaped like the obelisk.
So the mill was there, and then this, what you see kind of a ditch effect. What that ditch was the flue that collapsed.
That collapsed.
So you see, it was a.
I see. So that's how it came
just a
through.
little bit of elevational increase to the stack, so it carried a smoke, and then it went up.
You see it?
But there's pieces, you know.
Zach, you got a picture of it?
There's pieces like this that would have opened and closed dampers that are original to the mill, you know, all over the place. And so from an archaeological
standpoint, it's a lot.
It's a difficult resource for us to protect. But the chimney stack, there aren't that many chimney stacks left. If you go over this way, which we can or not, that's your choice, there's foundations that were excavated with marble or granite, you know, foundation corners.
That's the one you were talking about. Yeah, I'd like to see the marble. All right. Well, how on the children to do one more again this year at Queen Quet on Jehosee Island. I did you with a chief. Ain't like a chief like a Mito. You understand? I had a chief this, and this year a chief. But look what it got on. Some of y'all will watch Gullah Geechee TV. Y'all see this fish before when I've been talking about that churn with all that thing on its chest all the time like this. Yes, this is one of our chiefs of the National Wildlife Refuge System, who's normally in Atlanta, but we got you here to the Gullah Geechee Nation. How are you doing, David?
I'm doing great, thank you.
It is so great to have you here after you kind of pulled me into ATL Hot Atlanta. Now we got you here on a hot Gullah Geechee Day, right?
Yes, ma'am. It has been my pleasure.
Thank you. This is a blessing, having the opportunity to come out here with you and come out with the whole crew and see this island, because most Gullah Geechees never even heard of this island at all. Why is this place significant to the National Wildlife Refuge System?
It's an anchor, it's a cornerstone of an amazing landscape in this part of South Carolina. And many partners 20, 30 years ago began to protect this land. So we secured it for wildlife, and we want to continue going forward and managing it really well for wildlife. But there's an untold story, a story that we want to learn more about and tell going forward about how the people and the land came together. And that story is one that includes the Gullah Geechee people. And we want to tell it accurately, and we want to tell it in awesome fashion.
Yes, and you know we're going to help on out with that, right? Definitely got our help with that. And now I wanted to talk to you right here at this spot, because many people who come to the Gullah Geechee Nation, they've seen postcards already of oak-lined roads. But tell me what you feel standing here at a literal crossroad of oak-lined roads, where we know the overseer's house is in one direction, the plantation house is in another direction, the Gullah Geechees were enslaved in another direction. What does that feel like to you?
Well, we can look both ways. And we don't turn our backs on one and just face in this direction.
Right.
We don't ignore what's coming and only focus on the past. We take in what both directions mean. In order to know which way we're going, we got to know which way we've been.
Right.
There's a lot to celebrate about the past, and there's a lot to anguish about.
Definitely.
But we need to learn exactly what happened.
What happened?
Why it happened, and not repeat the mistakes. And that goes from relate to one another as people, and also goes to managing the land.
Absolutely.
So there's mistakes that we've made in managing the land improperly. We spent millions of dollars in plumbing the Everglades to fix the Everglades, and just 50 years later, we're replumbing the Everglades and restoring it naturally. But we're not doing it without getting the Miccosukees and the Seminoles input. Well, as we go forward in managing the land in the Low Country, how could we go forward learning from the past without talking to those who lived it and know it? Enslaved Africans weren't those who came and did what they were told and waited for the next order. They came with ideas, they came with energy. They brought the knowledge of growing rice. They knew how to build the dikes. The water control structures, those marvels of engineering that we still building today. Our engineers in Atlanta, where you and I met, cannot design any better than what the Gullah Geechees brought from Africa.
Exactly.
So we want to learn from our past and go forward in managing the land and interpreting the history of the people.
Definitely. And so as y'all see, we're standing here at this crossroad together so that we can take this journey forward, and so that Hunter children all going to know what's going on. And so it's interesting. His name is Viker. I always think of the Vikings, you know, forging ahead when I think of his last name, and y'all know how I do. So definitely this journey we're doing together. We have been looking back at the past, but we are surely going into the future together. So thank you to the National Wildlife Refuge System. And Hunter children, this ain't the last journey. We just getting started. Come on, see the rest of this island with me. Peace and blessings.
This at least still has a stack.
All this that's down here is just debris from this, or some of this ash as well?
I think it's probably debris.
Yeah. Just from decay over time?
That stack would have been probably 10 feet taller at least.
Oh, really?
Kind of come downhill.
Wow.
Well, that's not even neither. That's actually kind of a lime mortar.
Oh, that's what it is. It's not.
I was going to ask if there was a tabby on the front of it before. What? Lime mortar.
As a matter of fact, a lot of the brick, like if you're in the Charleston Historic Preservation stuff, you can't use modern mortar
No.
with these soft bricks.
No.
Break the brick.
Exactly.
It has a real soft compound lime mortar.
Look at that fork there stuck up on just above that ridge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody
You see it, Gullah?
put it down one day and
Oh,
never came back.
That might have been quitting day for him.
amazing it's still there.
How Hunter children to do this year, the Queen Quet, one more again coming to Hunter from Jehosee Island and things like that. I know plenty of Hunter children that wonder where that they at. Well, it's upon the East Basin. So we learn the Edisto River and things like that where we the at now. But look here at this year crossroad. We at a time of crossroad and things like that and now in the Gullah Geechee Nation, because just yesterday, we've been a study about 50 years ago when the March of Washington for Jobs and Economic Empowerment been going on. Back in January, we've been to celebrate the 150th year since Emancipation Proclamation. So now, everything about what we going to do going forward. What 100 children got to tell somebody 50 years from now? 100 children left for the children 150 years from now. That is crossroads where we the at now. So sometime you have to go back or go forward. If 100 ain't know where 100 are there from, 100 ain't going to know where 100 are going. San Kofa children. This year the Queen Quet, head upon the body of the Gullah Geechee Nation. And 100 children know, if 100 there with me, 100 going to know that this year the work going on.
Mm-hmm.